Hello, this is Kermit, your Entei mod for the Burn Tower Draft League Season 5, coming at ya with some power rankings. Um, I'm going to be making a video for these and not the traditional slides or just written down with a score out of 10. I wanted to do a tier list, do something different this time, and get myself situated if I'm going to be doing these type of videos. Um, I wanted to start with the draft league order. So the Sydney Slokings are first. That's Frobe with one of the best draft teams I've ever seen. Dragapult, I mean, a no-brainer for first pick. It's versatile, does everything. But we have the Sand, which Sand is not very common in draft. It's the least common out of the three weathers, I believe. But this is a crazy team. I mean, it's not sand oriented, so it's not limited by any means. But Excadrill and sand is always going to be a problem in prep. And there's Ogre Pond with water absorb, so Excadrill and Tyranitar are going to be safe. So is Entei. Entei has a Terra, so that Terra normal E-Speed is going to be coming out. But also Terra Grass, in case there's waters it wants to break through. It's like bulky waters, that's always good. Excadrill with a rapid spin, Zapdos with static. I mean, they cover their weaknesses so well. And the Slitherwing is a powerhouse. Pheasantipity and Tyranitar are going to be tanking the special attack hits. The only thing I would say is a physically defensive Zapdos is probably your best shot. I mean, Knuckle Stack, Terra Knuckle Stack, I could see being a threat, but definitely not against a breaker, a physical breaker. Um, but you know, he has options. There's the Will-O-Wisp Slitherwing if you want to do defensive, or the Will-O-Wisp Dragapult. But overall, the Terras are good. The Sand not being limited by Sand, but still having it as an offensive powerhouse is very good in my opinion. And I think these might be subject to change as we cover other teams, but I think starting off, this has to be the S tier team. I think it has everything it needs. There's great knockers, great scarfers. With you want to bring a surprise scarf Excadrill or scarf Pheasantipity or even a scarf Entei. I think there's a good pool for choice items, and there's enough bulk and offense there. I think the only weakness I would point out is again the lack of physical bulk in this team. But I think you can make it happen with Zapdos, Slitherwing, and Knucklestack. Next on, we have Mylosis, the Murkrow Mafia. I think this is a pretty good team. I think its offense is really its main thing. Iron Valiant Greninja, Ceruledge. I mean, that's an insane core just for straight up offense. It has Skarmory as its Fizz Def mode, which is and Gudra. So I mean, he has defensive staples here. Only thing I would worry about is your grounded poison being Arbok. Um, but having two steals and a flying type, I don't think is a great concern. But having to bring Arbok if your opponent has T-Spike Setter is not great, considering as the only hazard removal is Defog Skarmory. And I actually don't even know if he still gets Defog. Do you still get Defog? That might be stupid, but it doesn't even get Defog. Yeah, so I don't see a single hazard removal here. Oh, I guess Blastoise Rapid Spin. Yeah. So Blastoise Rapid Spin being the only remover is, I think you can make it work, but I'm not sure. Having to run Rapid Spin every week is not great, especially if you want to use those Shell Smash sets. Um, Being limited to Shell Smash, Rapid Spin, and 2 attacks is not something I would say is convenient. Especially when you have like 4 offensive threats. If you're getting Electivire 5 that you'd want to bring to a game, defensive Blastoise. I mean, it's an option. It certainly works, but I think it's very limiting in terms of hazards. Hazard setting, I mean, it's Skarmory, so I think he's covered in the hazard territory. Defensively, Gudra is a Spadef wall, and Skarmory is a defense wall. However, they're both steel types, but you have good fighting. You have good fighting switch-ins for Gudra and electric switch-ins. Wait a minute. Okay, I just noticed this team does not have a ground type. Um, their only electric immunity is Thunder is Therian. That wow. Wow. No Terra ground either. So this team is gonna rock a no ground type for this season. It's definitely a bold move to not have a ground type, but I think he can make it work, especially with the type of team he built. Very offensive, very win in the fewest turns possible. Just put on pressure, especially with a hazard stack. You see the Spite Ops has toxic spikes, has every hazard I think except rocks, sticky web. I think you can see it. With Iron Valley and Greninja, I mean I don't see the real need for sticky web in this team. Um, Especially with Electivire and Thundurus being your really slow attackers, but they're not even that slow. So I'm not sure about the Spite Ops here on this team, but everything else is fine. I like the Terra types. Electivire with water and flying just to counter the ground types and Chestnuts. I like the Terrifier, avoids a Will-O-Wisp or any type of burn, but also um, resists fire. And its fighting type, I'm sure for the boosted body presses. And Arbok, very very standard stuff. I will say the lack of ground type is a glaring weakness, I think, uh, in the team, especially when you have Skarmory and Blastoise and Greninja who are weak to electric. And Electivire has motor drive, but I don't see why you would bring both Thundurus and Electivire to a game. I mean, I guess it has Terra, but um, I think that limiting factor of you only have one or two electric switch-ins, Gudra doesn't resist. So yeah, those are the only two real immunities slash resistances to electric. Um, and the Terras don't necessarily help. Chestnut, I guess you can switch in on electric type, but it gets Volt switched on, and they just put pressure that way. I think it's still a good team. I think the offense is going to be able to do crazy amounts of work. So I think I'm going to be putting this at a B tier. I definitely think it's a good team. No ground type, and your only removal being defensive Blastoise, I think is a very limiting factor in that way. Um, but I like the hazards. I like the pressure you can put on. It has good bulk with Gudra and Skarmory, with just that no ground type kind of hurts the team. Alright, next up we have Foul, who I think was building a doubles team with Corviknight and Rotom uh, as his single staple. Because Qianpao, Armarouge, Hatterene, Dragonite, Annihilate. I mean, this is like just VGC, early VGC really. Um, well, let's see. I like this team. Best defogger in the game, Corviknight. Hatterene to bounce back hazards. Annihilate, spin blocker. Probably the best spin blocker um, in the game outside of Goldango. Uh, and then you know Qianpao is, I mean, it's a cheap Pokemon. Just incredible attack, the ability to lower the opponent's defense. Great offensive stabs with Dark and Ice. Always a good mon. The Terra Armarouge in round 3 was surprising. However, I think it's really good. I think it has a lot of potential to sweep most weeks, especially with the Terra. You know, the stored power with weak armor is always a staple set. It gets iron defense. I mean, I think it's a good pickup. Some people said it was early, but I see the vision, especially with Annihilate in round 7. That was pretty crazy. Val did mention the Go-Goat was going to prove some haters wrong. Uh, we will see about that. It's a Go-Goat, so I wouldn't expect amazing things from it, but you know, I'll let him cook. Other than that, has hazard setters. He has Annihilate, it looks like, and Sandy Shock. Sandy Shock uh, does get the Stealth Rock, and I think Wigglytuff does too, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't it? Uh, Wigglytuff, do you get Stealth Rock? You do. Okay, Wigglytuff does get Stealth Rock. And I don't think he gets Spike. Does Sandy Shock get spikes? No, Sandy Shocks. But it does. Okay, well, Sandy Shocks does get access to both Stealth Rock and Spike, so I can see Sandy Shocks running those hazards with Volt Switch, Earth Power, stuff like that. But I can also see it as a defensive threat. Um, I mean, it's pretty fast. It has booster. You know, it's a good two good stabs with electric and ground. But you know, the real hitters of this team is going to be Champow, Dragonite, and Annihilate. Um, Rotom Wash is, I mean, it's a staple in draft. It's always good, even with the limited move pool. It has not hazards, disruption with status, Volt Switch, Hydro Pump, Hatterene. Good. I think it's good support for Armor Rouge, or you know, that core of Hatterene pairing is always good. The Terras, I already spoke about Armor Rouge and Go-Goat. Wigglytuff, I mean, it's a three-pointer mon. I'm not expecting much out of it, but wouldn't be surprised if it put in work for a game or two. Overall, pretty standard team. I don't see a huge flaw in this team. Um, besides no grounded poison. The Terra Wigglytuff is it. Um, and I mean, I guess no spinner either. Just Corviknight with defog, which is pretty free. You're probably gonna get a defog off with Corviknight at least once a game. But yeah, and you have Levitate and Rotom Wash. Dragonite's a flying type. I think you're fine. Uh, but I think you would have to worry about Chiempao getting hit with those rocks or spikes or T-spikes. But you know, he has ways to deal with removal with hazards with Corviknight and Hatterene. I don't think he'll be struggling too much with that. Uh, yeah, I think his team is good. I think it has a fair balance of offense and defense. I do notice though is if we pull up you, I'm going to be putting in the team. I'm wondering what these speed tiers are. Let's go to matchup team 4. Okay, so here's the speed tiers. Okay, this is a weakness, I will say. Chiempao with I mean 135 is probably was one of the fastest mons in draft. But after that, your next highest is 101, then 90 and below. So you're gonna be outsped by a lot of these top tier threats um, that are over 100 speed. Um, would you have booster Sandy Shocks to deal with, and Rotom is a great Scarfer. And you have priority in the forms of E-Speed Dragonite, but that's pretty much it. And I know that this team is more bulky than it is supposed to be fast. As you see, 87 defense, average defense, and 85 speed def. Especially, what I'm really talking about is this 92 HP stat. Everything can tank hits, so I guess it doesn't really need to outspeed a lot, but um, pretty heavy fairy, a pretty heavy ghost weakness. But the armors can tear out. but the Analape and the Hatterene can't, and no real ghost switch-ins besides Jianpao, which is not really a switch-in, and Wigglytuff, which I don't see coming to like every single game. Uh, yeah, okay, I've dragged this on too much. Foul, pretty good team. I like his team. Speed tiers are a little bit rough, not incredibly rough, but a little bit. And his removal's not terrible, Corviknight Defog, but I can see him struggling with T-Specs at some point. I still think this is an A team. I think he can put in some work with these Terras and, Dragonite and Alape, Chiempo, always a threat. Corviknight Hatterene, always annoying. I think he has some good tools he can put to use. Next up, we have Sizzlesnom. Um, I mean, not much to say other than pretty good Sun team. I see two abusers in Gouging Fire and Torkoal. Uh, I guess if you count Whimsicott, I think he has Chlorophyll, and Landorus, who will receive less damage from the water type attacks. And I would say hinder Samurott, but Samurott is really only clicking Ceaseless Edge, so I don't think that's too much of a hindrance. The Lando Torn pairing is pretty good, I will say. Clefable always hits on you, and Gouging Fire, Revavroom, and Espeon are always threats. In attacking wise, Revavroom, Terra, always good. Terra Fire, Terra Grass, I like those chosen Terra types. Espeon, I used an Espeon back in Season 3, and it was almost the kill leader with Terra Fairy, and Terra Fighting, I believe, also. Um, so I expect that Espeon to put in some work. Um, but yeah, I mean, this team is its removal is Spin Torkoal. That's pretty much it. I don't remember if Whimsicott gets Defog. It does not. So Spin Torkoal is really the only removal. I guess Magic Bounce Espeon, but you're gonna have to play um, fairly well with that. Um, which is not it's not great, but it's not terrible. If you're bringing a Sun team, I mean Torkoal is pretty much expected, but with that top five, um, if you don't bring Revavroom or Espeon, I mean you're kind of lacking in the damage department. Actually, that's a lie. That's a complete lie. Me when I lie. Landorus and Samurott, Gouging Fire, they all have damage output. I was really talking about the Clefable, which still has damage output. I think this team is underrated, or maybe even fairly rated. I mean, he has a pretty top-heavy team. As you can see, it only has 9 Pokemon, which was the lower limit, with no budget remaining. Um, I think it'll do well. I think uh, it has a grounded poison, which is always good. Um, and it has an Intimidate. It has hazards with Samurott and Landorus. It has removal in Torkoal and Denier and Espeon. No real spin Punisher. No ghost type. And I like the Regenerator on Torn. Clefable is always a wall. I like this team a lot. Gouging Fire is always a threat with Sun, especially. Whimsicott is a very, very good disruptor with Encore and even it can sell Tailwind and stuff. Leech Seed. It's always annoying. Um, I think this is a good team. I think it can run through some teams, especially. Uh, and its speed tiers are actually not bad. That torn really helps. Paste values. Let's get rid of you. Matchup center. Yeah. So the speed tiers: 121, 116, 110, 91, 91, 90, and then 85 and below. I mean, that's pretty good. Your lowest real mon is 60 base speed, which is, it's a clef, so you're not really looking for more than that for a defensive Pokemon. But all of the rest of your tiers are good, for speed at least. Uh, I can see him. I can see him putting some work with his team. Uh, type weaknesses, not really many. Stealth Rock, when your only Pokemon is weak to rocks. So if you want to run heavy duty boots, your sun is limited, unlimited turns. If you want to run Heat Rock, you get you get kind of pelted by rocks every switch in. It's not ideal, especially when your Gouging Fire is also weak to rocks, and so is your Torn. So they might be forced to run heavy duty boots at times. But I think other than that, I mean, you have some weaknesses, uh, but not really any major ones that I can see. Um, your Spadef is a bit lacking. Highest highest Spadef Pokemon is Espeon, which is not great. But Torn always can run Assault Vest, and problem fixed. And Calm Mind Clefable. So I wouldn't say it's a big deal. Um, I think I think it can get dicey if you encounter some special breakers. Clefable won't get enough time to set up those calm minds to take it. Especially something like Gengar, who can just run either Choice Scarf or Choice Specs and just blow stuff up. Clefable, it's unaware, is not saving it from that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's also a pretty good A team. I'd say it's above Foul, no offense. It has some pretty big hitters, it's hard to deny. But those hazards, I think Foul is a bit better. I think it has better hazard deniers. They both have no spinner, which actually Torkoal is a spinner, but it's not the greatest spinner. I think they're interchangeable. I think you could put them either way. All right, we're moving on to Muffenman. Let's go ahead and put this in here. Muffenman, Muffenman, take me by the hand. Anyways, um, all right. So he went all the way to the upper limit this time. We went 36. It's 11 Pokemon. He takes a Comfy again. No surprise there. He loves his Comfy. Um, but let's see, his top. He went very bottom heavy this time. Very budgety. His top three, even though it was his last pick, I'll say was a Shifu single, Heatran, and Latias. Um, I mean, Heatran and Latias is a great pairing. Gets that ground immunity from Latias, and Heatran can take some of Latias' weaknesses like Fairy, Bug, stuff like that. Heatran with a Flame Body always catches the U-turns, punishes them if they don't have protective pads, and a Shifu single just hits hard. I mean, I think that core is pretty strong. Latias and Urshifu being weak to Fairy, but Heatran 4 times resist Fairy, so I mean that's that. And then Comfy, he cooked with it last season. It's a Terra again, Terra Captain, Fire, Ground. I think those two are the best options. However, I think Ground and Fire are kind of redundant. They both break steals. I guess if you have like a flying steel like Corviknight, you would run Fire. Obviously, run Fire over it. But I'm not exactly seeing why you would need both. Could be wrong though. Thwacky, well, it's a low Terra Captain, fighting and poison. Yeah, they're whatever. Ambipom, normal, obviously. It's pretty good. Boosted Technician, Fake Outs, and double hits. Ghosts, immunity to fighting, its only weakness. And Fire, I mean, it's immune to burn, which is good. Probably to break steals as well. Um, yeah, I mean, the Terras I think are fine. The spinner, Donphan, I mean, it's probably one of the best draft spinners. Defog and Decidueye, um, Muck for the grounded poison. The only weakness I see, real weakness with this team, is the fact that um, with 11 Pokemon, you have to run 6 every game. You're leaving out almost half of your roster um, when they all really cover one specific thing. So if they bring if your opponent has a good T Spiker, you're forced to bring Muck. And I mean, though it's not a liability, but then that means 1 out of your 6 slots is now reserved for Muck, and you're going to be limited in your next 5 picks. Um, so I think that's the only real weakness I see in this team. If we take a look at here, it's speed tiers. I will say speed tiers. They're good distribution, but your fastest Pokemon being Ambipom is not great. 115 speed. Um, I wouldn't say it's amazing, uh, especially for being an Ambipom. But Comfy having triage, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's speed. Urshifu has Sucker Punch. Latias has agility, Dragon Dance, stuff like that. I think he has a lot of priority too. Ambipom with Fake Outs. Good Scarfers. I mean, Rotom can carry a Scarf. Actually, that's pretty much it. Thwackey runs Grassy Glide. And the Grassy Glide, speaking of Thwackey, that that grassy terrain is going to be good for Heatran. Uh, Anyways, that Primarina, I used Primarina last season. I think it did really well. Um, it's a very good breaker. Just Calm Mind, Draining Kiss, get back to the full Surf. That Liquid Voice, Hyper Voice. I mean, it's good. Uh, yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I really have to say. This is a pretty well-crafted team. Um, Dawnfang can set up rocks. Does it have spike access? It does not, but it does have T-Spec and Muck. No hazards in a team that, I mean, I don't think it needs hazards. Maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I had the same problem with Muffenman last season. I wasn't sure what his game plan is. Um, I don't see I don't see the vision. There's just a lot of good mons combined together. Um, but he got first seed last year, so I'm gonna trust he knows what he's doing. Like for example, Sizzlesnom, I mean, it's a Sun team. It's pretty straightforward. Um, but Mylosis, I mean, Mylosis is he's there to get up hazards and then immediately put pressure with either Valiant Grenade or Ceruledge. In Muffin case, I'm not entirely sure. Um, I mean, it has good synergy. I just don't really know what the game plan is, how you plan on winning. It just looks like a constructed team. Good on paper. We'll have to see how good it is in execution. I still like his team, uh, and I'll probably put it top B. I think I'll put it there. All right, next up is ZackT's team with the very classic Tinglu Reshipu Rapid Strike. Always, always a pleasure to see. Though there's a special distinction this time. We see the Weavile as a very offensive threat. Very speedy as well. We look at let's go. I think it's here. Matchup center. All right. As we can see, the speed tiers are quite nice. 3 mons above 110 speed, always good. Um, and even the ones below 100, there's 97, 80, and 60. The 60s are not great, but they're either tanks or breakers, so you don't need that much speed in there. Type weaknesses, I'll say water. I mean, you have the Golem who can Terra, you have a 4 times resistance and Hydrapple. Um, this is Crocolore. I think Crocolore can Terra, but I mean, you're not really bringing Crocolore to every game, so that's not really an issue there. And Tinglu doesn't really have a weakness, like, let's be honest. Um, it's just so tanky. It doesn't really matter, I think. Which is the same. I think Fairy is a bit of a problem here. You have Magnezone and Weezing, so I don't think it's terrible. But if you're going to be terrestrializing with your Magnezone, losing that Fairy weakness could be bad, especially because Weezing is still not a great Spadef wall. So if you won't tank that many Moonblasts from special attackers. Um, Couple 4 times weaknesses to ground, but they're both Terras, so not really a problem. Fighting as well. Tinglu's not really weak to fighting. Um, Golem can Terra, and Chinchino and Weavile, and they don't really need to be tanking moves. They move first and hit hard. That's really their only goal. Um, but yeah, typing wise, I think that's I think it's okay. It's a pretty good spread. Um, and so speed wise, just have a low speed average, but I think it's fine. I mean, you have Weavile, Chinchino, and Screamtail. Um, you're already forcing things to be jolly, so uh, you should be fine there. I don't think it's a very big issue. Special attacking wise, I mean, you have a Hydrapple and Magnezone. I don't think you need much more. Um, Drifblim, can Calm Mind. Screamtail is not really an attacker, but I think I don't think you need much more than that for special attacking. And Spadef, and you have Screamtail, Tinglu, even though it has 80 with its Tablet of Ruin, it's definitely not 80. In Hydrapple, you can always run Assault Vest if you need to. Um, and then, well, HP attack and defense is pretty good. Most mounts have good stats in that regard. Um, I did want to talk about the Terra types on Magnezone. Um, I'm not entirely sure what these are for. Um, you're 4 times weak to ground, and neither of your Terra types either resist or make you immune to it. So I'm a little skeptical on that. I'm not sure why you wouldn't go for a grass type. I know you have Hydrapple, so maybe that was your thought process, but um, I'm not sure what these Terra types do for you. Uh, Maybe, yeah, I see you don't really have a fire type other than the Crocolore, but maybe that's what you wanted to do, just have a hard-hitting Terra Blast Fire. Um, Maybe that's the same reasoning for ground. I'm not sure, but I'm sure you chose it for a reason. Uh, but that's really my only gripe with Magnezone. Uh, Other than that, I think you have a pretty good team. I mean, you have every hazard under the sun under with Tinglu and Remover. Oh, I did want to speak on that. Your only two removers are Weezing and Chinchino, um, and both of them remove uh, hazards on both fields. So I think it's a little counterintuitive. Now you're setting up hazards with Tinglu, but if you want to get rid of hazards on your own side, you're getting rid of your own. Um, but with the build of your team, I'm sure you can get them back up. It's just when you're running hazard stack, I think having a spinner would be a little more useful, just because you don't have to keep resetting your own hazards and play passively that way. Um, but I do want to say Screamtail Wish support with Tinglu and Regenerator Hydrapple is going to be annoying. Um, I think the only thing Tinglu is missing from becoming broken is recovery, and having Screamtail to just switch in Tinglu on any hit, it'll live it, and then just get half its health back I mean, it's pretty good. And then you're nothing short of weak on the offensive side. You have Weavile and Urshifu, Magnezone as your special breaker. I think it's a pretty good team. I'm not gonna lie. Um, the Terra types, Chinchino and Golem, I think are fine. They're standard. Was only really confused on that Magnezone Terra, but that's pretty much it. Um, I like the stat distribution, and I like everything else you've done so far with the team. I mean, I know I'm scared of it because I'm facing it week one. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm gonna handle this monster of a team. But yeah, I think in the tier list, I think I'll put you there. I think that's good. Yeah, I think you have a variety of mons that fulfill their roles, and I think you're gonna do well this season. Um, that's pretty much all I have for your team. Next up, we have Montco Escavaliers, QuasiCompetent. This is an interesting team. I've been looking at this for a while. Um, I am really wondering why I see so many 5 and 4 point mons. Um, no hate, no hate at all. I think Alcremie and Palisade are nice. I think Kamal's a fraud, but that's just my opinion. Um, all right, we'll talk about this. We'll talk about this in a bit. I think I want to talk about Miascarada, Metagross, and Raging Bolt. That is a really, really good trio. Um, a little weak to ground, but Rotom Heat has Levitate. Um, I mean, that's pretty much your only ground immunity. Wow, actually. Uh, no Terraflying or anything either. Yeah, there's a pretty big ground weakness. Miascarada is not really a resistance because it's made out of paper. Um, but yeah, I mean, I like the offensive. I like the offensive presence of this team. Raging Bolt, Special Breaker, Metagross, Physical Breaker, Miascarada. I like Miascarada. It's just fast, U-turns, knockoffs, flower tricks. I mean, it's just Miascarada's good. And Mew, you can never prep for Mew. I mean, it's just so versatile. It can do anything. Um, I like Tentacruel as a spinner, Mienshao Regenerator. The only weakness while I was looking at this team was the hazard area. Um, sorry, not hazard area, the recovery area. Mienshao is the only Pokemon that has any regenerative capabilities with Regenerator. Unless you're running Giga Drain Miascarada, which is not real. Palisand has Shore Up. Now Creamy has Recover, but I mean those are your Terra captains, right? I mean Miascarada can't recover, Metagross can't recover, Raging Bolt can't recover, Tentacruel can't recover, and I'm not including Rest because that's not a real move. Rotor can't recover, and Mew doesn't have recovery either. Um, and no Wish Passer that I can see. So really, your only options are Shore, Palisand, and Alcremie with Recover. Um, which I think for a team that has slow hitters like Raging Bolt and Metagross, healing should like Wish healing or Wish support should really be a priority. Um, but I think I think they'll be fine. Let's take a look at their stats real quick. Okay. Let's take a look. Their speed tiers, I think they're fine. It's a gap between 105 and 173, but I don't think that's too big of a deal. Um, yeah, their HP stat, that's whatever. Palisade and Alcremie have pretty high defenses respectively. Um, so does Rotom Heat. Uh, I think, yeah, they have a pretty big ground weakness, with Rotom being the only real counter. And if it's Mold Breaker Extra Drill, you are cooked. You're cooked, sir. I didn't even see the Ghost weakness. I guess that's pretty big, with Miascarada being your only Ghost resist other than Kamala. But having to bring more than one of these 5 pointers could be dicey, especially when you have your top four, I'll call it, with Mew, uh, wanting to play every game. I guess you can choose between Mew and Metagross, but I don't know. I definitely don't see multiple of your 5 pointers coming to games, especially since they're all your Terras, so you'd have to choose between them. And non-Terra Kamala, non-Terra Creamy, I mean, they're just. I ain't gonna question. I'm not even gonna talk about that. But I think this team has. I mean, it has good removal, Tentacruel, good Metagross gets Stealth Rock. Palisand. No, I'm sure Palisand gets Stealth Rock. Yeah, and so does Mew. Spikes, Meowscarada, and Mew. And he does get T-Spike. Does Venomoth get Defog in this gen? Venomoth. It does not. Okay, so that's not real. None of these learn Defog. Kamala and Tentacruel are your spinners. I mean, it's okay. Tentacruel is a pretty good spinner, I think. And you have hazards, although limited to usually offensive Pokemon like Meowscarada, Mew, and Metagross, which is a little bit rough. I think Palisand, I think we just said got Stealth Rock. Yeah, as long as you can run Palisand Stealth Rock. But yeah, I mean, I like this team. I just think that slow recovery could hinder it, especially against other hazard users. If they pressure Tentacruel, especially with that ground weakness, you don't really want to spin on a setter like Tinglu or Lando. Uh, I think that's really the only thing I have to gripe about. I like the Terra types. I think they're good. Um, and I'm going to put them. I think I'm going to put them. I don't want to be a hater, cause I like the top three. I think I'll put them here. All right. And now we're on to me, myself, and I. I was thinking about skipping myself just because, I'm gonna be biased, obviously, because it's my team. So I guess I can just go to matchup team one. Okay, this is my team. I like my speed tiers pretty fast, pretty fast. A lot of wish support, which I guess I didn't want it to be. I think I'll take this time to explain my draft. Um, I went pretty. I didn't go top heavy. I didn't go low either. I didn't go under 9. I went pretty middle of the pack. I didn't take anything above 16. Really, I didn't take anything uh, above 15 after the second round. I took Iron Treads, one of the best spinners. I don't. Yeah, I mean it was a pretty no-brainer, especially with Ogerpon Fire. Um, I wanted to use new Pokemon this time, especially in the In Memoriam I made last season, and I'll get to that now that everyone's done for this season. But I got Treads and Ogerpon Fire. I wanted to use them. Treads, I've never drafted a good spinner, so besides last season I got Tusk, but I didn't really use them. Iron Treads, I really want to use it. Ogerpon Fire I've never used before, so I wanted to use that too. And then I know it's annoying, Umbreon and Alamamola, sorry. But I think they're really good for this team. Their two Wish Passers mean that Gudra, who doesn't have recovery, can get it back, can get its health back. Ogerpon Fire could get its health back. Galarian Zapdos can get its health back. Braviary, I think these Wish support, especially with Baton Pass from Umbreon, Flipton from Malola, is going to be really good for this team, especially like these bulky hard hitters like Zapdos, Galar, and Braviary. Not so much Gengar because it's pretty frail to be coming in, but I have defensive pivots, I have offensive breakers, and I think they complement each other quite well. I like my speed tiers. There's a gap between 80 and 100, but it's not huge. And I have Jolteon for really fast. I see some weaknesses with Ice, um, Ground, and Rock, but if you can see, the weakness to Ice and Rock come from Ogerpon, which is it's fine because I have a spinner and treads. Um, and Braviary, who I can Terra out of that Rock and Ice weakness. I also have uh, resistances to Ice from Amamalola. That's pretty much it, which is a bit bad. I have three three ground weaknesses with Shreds, Gengar, and Jolteon. Jolteon can tear out of it. And I have two immunities from Zapdos and Braviary. So, I mean, I'm not too worried about that. What I'm really worried about is uh, only one Dragon Resist because I don't have a Fairy type, but that's exactly why I chose Terra Fairy for both Braviary and Jolteon. I think a Fast Fairy and a Hard-Hitting Fairy is going to be good, especially for those Dragon types. Um, I have some Fairy weaknesses, Umbreon, Goodra, and Zapdos, but I do have Punishers as well, like Treads, Gengar, and Ogerpon. Um, I have some pretty balanced everything else. Uh, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say about my team. I didn't really talk about Porygon 2. It was kind of a last minute thing. I mean, I think it'll be good for some matchups. I don't see it coming very often. But I like the Volt turn I have going on. Zapdos getting U-turn, Ogerpon U-turn, Iron Treads Volt Switch, Jolteon Volt Switch, Alola Flip turn, stuff like that. Baton Pass from Umbreon. I like my pivots. I really do. So I don't really feel like ranking myself. Um, but I just did the explanation just so you guys can see what was going on through my head. Maybe I'll put myself in there at the end. But next we have LazyGuy. I think this is a very underrated team. Um, Great Tusks, Spectrier, Scizor. Wow, I mean, I wasn't really looking at this team, but now I am. Now you have my full attention. You have possibly one of the best spinners in the game, and one of the best spin deniers of the game in Spectrier and Great Tusk. You have Rocks in Great Tusk. You have Defog and Scizor. Um, you have Kiram, Weezing. I think this is a great team, actually. Yeah, I mean, um, what else could you ask for, really? I'm trying to think of what to say here. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look here. The speed tiers. Okay, I'll make a point about the speed tier. Spectre, 130 speed. That's pretty good. Um, as Elf, 115. But below that, it's not amazing. 95 and below means that uh, Kiram, Tusk, they're probably gonna be Rotom too. Probably going to be forced to run Scarf some matchups just because the oppressive nature of speed in this meta. Um, and there's a gap 65 to 86 and 95 to 115, which is pretty big, I will say. Um, but I mean, you are no short of hard hitters. I mean, you have Scizor with 130 attack, Great Tusk with 131, Azelf with 120. I mean, wow. I mean, look at this, right? I mean, you have a lot of threats here. Scizor with not fast, but it does have technician priority. Um, the Dunsparce always sits on everything really. Azumarill with that huge power, belly drum sets, Aqua Jet, Kyurem. You can run a variety of things: Scale Shot, Dragon Dance, Ice Specs. Azelf always has a different niche, and Spectrier doesn't really have too many different sets, but doesn't really need it with 130 speed and 145 special attack. I mean, it's a monster. As you can see, the SPDF of this team is a little bit lacking, with Rotom Fan being the highest in 107, which isn't terrible, but it's not something you want to have. Though with the nature of this team, it looks like it just wants to win. It just puts everything on one win con while chipping everything else. So I can see Lazy either winning games fast or losing games fast. I think it's a very spiral, spiral you roll into. I like the Dunsparce and Rotom fan. I'm a very big fan. Get it? Anyways, I'm a big fan of these Terras. Fairy is always good. Ghost, I like that. Rotom fan. Um, if anyone watched the SPL, Uzi Gunner used it with Electric Steel and Fairy. I was a big fan of that. Wartortle. I like the Terra Wartortle. I know Shell Smash can catch some people of guard. I really like the nature of this team, which is just hit hard and win. Um, the Dunsparce being the only Ghost resist or immunity, sorry, it's not great. And so he's not incredibly weak to rocks. And with Great Tusk having spin, I think you're fine for that. Hazards, I will say, look a little lackluster. Stealth Rock, I mean, Stealth Rock is really all you need in this meta, but having no spikes is not amazing. I did forget to say that about my team. My team also does not have very many hazards. I have Ogerpon for spikes, but I don't really feel like I'm going to use that too much. And Iron Treads being the only rocker is a little lackluster, I will say. Overall, I think this is a very underrated team, and I think I'm trying to think who. I think this team is really good actually. Hmm. I don't see many glaring weaknesses to this team. I honestly think this might even be up here with Frobe. I'll think about it, but I think it does deserve to be up there. Okay, well, moving on to Goth Girl Spit. I'm not calling you that name, so I'm gonna call you Dylan. Um, just because I refuse to say that more than once in this video. Um, anyways, let's go ahead and plug you in. I like this team. I think it's very unique. Um, there's a lot of Pokemon I wanted to use this season, but couldn't really fit in my scheme. Diancie, Virizion, um, were really the main two I wanted to use. But okay, I'll make some comments here. Goldengo, obviously the best spin blocker, blocks defog, blocks spin. Um, but I mean his hazards are not. Oh my jeez. Okay, one thing at a time. Hazards. Actually, I take it back. He has a lot of hazards, I will say. I think this is a pretty good hazard stack team, especially with the T-Spec for Pincurchin, because you were using Pincurchin a lot with Halucha and Verdin, Iron Boulder, Quark. I mean that's pretty much it. But I think That's pretty much all you need, really, um, for Pincurchin to do. Set up T-Spike, maybe set up some spikes. You have Defog or you have Spin. You have your own removal in Cryogonal, and default Halucha if you want to use that, I guess. Um, so I guess your removal is not great. I don't like your removal, uh, but I like your offense is pretty good. Hydreigon always hits hard. Um, uh, Halucha with Unburden is always a threat. Iron Boulder. Um, 108 Spadef is crazy. But I think with Quark Drive, it can definitely put in some work. And the only reason I don't like that your removals are Default Halucha and Spin Cryo is because one, Halucha is weak to rocks, Volcanion is weak to rocks, Cryogonal is weak to rocks, um, Iron Boulder gets hit by Spike, Dango gets hit by Spike, Virizion gets hit by Spike, Volcanion gets. I think you're forced to run boots a lot of the time. Uh, just because, I mean, if you want to bring a spinner, you either one have to sacrifice a move slot in Halucha for defog, or 2 bring Cryogonal, and when you have this type of team, you do not want to be sacrificing a slot for a Cryogonal, let me tell you that. Even with Terra, this thing has pretty good SPDF, but this thing, it feints to a quick attack from me. Look at this, 50 defense, 80 HP, not great. Um, and if that's your only form of removal other than TheFetCet, I think you're going to struggle a lot with hazards. Obviously, boots. Boots helps. Boots, I mean, it's a very integral part of the game. And you're pretty fine against knockoff. Dingo and Boulder suffer, but I mean, I like, uh, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I gotta say about hazards. Now I'm gonna praise some of your, I'm gonna praise your team because I just berated on it. I like Terra Deancy. Always can win games, especially with Terra Water. Sometimes, uh, Diamond. If you get lucky with Diamond Storm, Calm Mind, I don't know, stuff like that. You can just win games. Um, Mudzone Colossal. I don't know. I feel like no. I said I was gonna stop. Sorry. All right. All right. I like the game plan. I like um, Pinkirchen setting up hazards, setting up terrain, and just winning just with the hazard chip and enabling your Halucha and Iron Boulder to just do stuff is really good. Hydreigon always gets in chips, you know, whether it's Scarf or Specs or I don't know, nasty sub nasty plot. I don't see Hydreigon being a win condition, but I think having it ship down things for Boulder and Halucha to just go ham is good. Virizion, I think, feels a little out of place here. You already have Halucha as a fighting type, and as a grass type who's offensive, it's not really hitting a lot of things. Maybe bulky waters, but you have Water Absorb Volcanion, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Like I love Virizion, I just don't really see it fitting in this team. Uh, but that's my opinion. I love Virizion. I love that you're trying to use it. Um, Goldingo Iron Boulder is I mean it's a pretty good pairing. So is Hydreigon. Uh, Lucha, you're not weak to ground. Actually, no. I wanted to. I'm sorry. I said I was gonna stop. But let's take a look at this ground weaknesses real quick. 3 immunities, okay. One of them being Cryogonal, not okay. Um, Lucha and Hydreigon, pretty good against ground. But let's look at this. Dango weak. Diancie, which is a Terra, I'll give you that. Colossal is also a Terra. But remember, and let's go ahead and remember you can only Terra one mod. So if you're Terraing Diancie, good on you. Your your Colossal is still 4 times weak. Your Pincushion is 2 times weak. Your Dango, your Boulder, and your Volcanion are still weak to ground. So, pretty, 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 pretty bad against ground spam. But I mean, you're probably gonna be bringing Lucha, Hydreigon to most games anyways. I don't know. I think Goldango and Iron Boulder being pretty heavy parts of your game, being weak to ground, is not amazing. You have Virizion for its resist, but yeah, I mean, you have some other weaknesses with water, but I think water and fighting weaknesses are a lot less relevant than your ground weakness. You have Water Absorb on your Volcanion, and you have Terra on the Colossal, and Terra on the Yancy. Um, and for fighting types, I mean, you have, again, Terra Colossal, Terra Cryo, and you have Goldango. So, I wouldn't be worried about that. You have Lucha too. The only thing I'm worried about is Ghost Spam and Ground Spam. Uh, but I think you'll manage. You have good Terras to alleviate some of those weaknesses. Um, and I did talk about your speed tiers. Um, I like your speed tiers. They're decent. You have Unburden on Halucha and Boulder, so they'll outspeed most of everything in the metagame with Pincushion around. There are some mons that I feel like are a bit out of place, like this Virizion and this Mudsdale. I don't see them really doing much or being brought to games. Um, But yeah, I mean overall I think this is a pretty good team. I'm trying to think where I want to put it. Let's take a look. Montco's Cavaliers. Oh. I don't like that, so I'm gonna put like that. Okay. Um, yeah, I like that a little bit better. Uh, I don't think it's a bad. I don't think it's C-worthy because I don't think any team here is C-worthy. I think it's just everyone is so competitive, and I think just visually this is the least threatening team. Um, but I mean, you have terrain with Halucha and Boulder, so I mean, I don't think it's non-threatening. I just think there's a lot of weaknesses you have to cover, and I'd love to see you play around them during the season. So you can definitely prove me wrong here. Next up is Gid on disk. Let's go ahead and paste values. All right, let's take a look. First impressions. Rillaboom Sneasler. Um, you know the Kobe and Shaq of drafts. If you draft Sneasler, you're most likely gonna get a Rillaboom. However, there is some extra juice with this. Rillaboom providing healing to Suicune is incredible. Um, and Registeel. There's Suicune's pretty much only weakness is that it has no reliable recovery, and with grassy terrain, oh, you bet this thing is going to be annoying to deal with. And he has some other threats like Glastrier and Registeel, who also don't have great healing, who are going to take massive advantage of this. I think this is one of the better constructed teams, um, without having like a very top heavy approach. I think this is one of the best crafted teams in Entei right now. Um, Sneasler and Amorous is a great pairing, especially with Rillaboom weakening ground type moves against Delphox, Registeel, and Sneasler, and Amorous flat out being immune to them. This is an amazing team. I'm I'm in love with this team. I think the speed tiers are fine. Sneasler is good. Galvantula with Sticky Web is gonna be really good. Um, they don't have the Turtle Terapagos stats. It's like whatever. Um, but two reliable spinners. Terapagos. If you want to run spinner on Terapagos, you can always just run Sound Slash. Um, Stealth Rock on pretty much everything. Spike on Sound Slash 2 if you wanted to. Sticky Toxic Spike if you wanted. I think Hazard. You're okay. The only thing I do want to mention is that if you're going for a sticky web build, your only Hazard denier is like Terra Ghost Glacier. So um, I'm not a big fan of that. If you want a Hazard stack, at least have a good denier. Because something can just come in and defog or spin the webs away. Um, especially with something like in front of something like a Suicune or Registeel, who's very passive. But yeah, with type weaknesses, ground is irrelevant. Especially with grassy terrain, it doesn't matter. Weak to rocks, I will say, a little bit weak to rocks, but you have spinners. Terra Delphox, Terra Glast, you're fine, honestly. Same thing with a fire weakness. Um, Galv doesn't really matter. You don't really need it for much other than Sticky Web. Rillaboom, yeah, you have a Suicune. That's all I'm gonna say. You have a Suicune, so you're not really weak to fire, and you have Delphox. I think um, the type chart doesn't really matter here. You're not overwhelmingly weak to anything. Uh, yeah, I don't have much to say. I love your team, and I think it's fairly threatening. Terra Glass is always a threat. Terra Delphox, I know you put in work with it last season. I think you're gonna cook. I think if this is an A, this might go here too. I think this is one of the best made teams here. I think either here or here. I think I'll put you there. I think yeah. All right, Bonana guy, Melbourne Merwex. All right, let's take a look at this. Let's go ahead and paste the values. Okay. Um. Okay. This is a very threatening team, I will say. Um. Darkrai and Iron Moth hit hard and have no switch-ins. Um, and then Gliscor is just always annoying, has every hazard under the sun. Quaquaval, perfect removers, and you have another one in Brambleghast too. Bellybolt just doesn't die. Bronzong, equally as annoying, just doesn't die. Um, that's really all you really need. Porygon Z, incredible hitter with Terra, it's going to put in a lot of work. And I've had a problem with this since day one. Why do you have this Alola Ninetales? What is the point of this? You have no Terra Ice, no Slush Rusher. Why? But he assured me that he's cooking something, so I'll trust that, I guess. Looks like a ghost weakness, but I mean not really. Hatchram doesn't really count. You have Porygon Z, Darkrai. Darkrai is not surprisingly more like I guess surprisingly bulky. You could say based on any defenses is not bad. Um, and then let's see speed tiers. They're not terrible. He has very very doable speed tiers: 125, 110, 109, 95, 90, 85. Yeah. Three very slow mons, but like whatever, you have good speed tiers up top. Um, physical attackers. I mean, Quaquaval still hits hard. It has Moxie. It has Aqua Step. Don't sleep on it. Brambleghast 115 attack, still pretty good. Windrider. I don't know who would set up Tailwind for it, but that's pretty good. Speed and attack. Um, Bellybolt, I already mentioned how annoying this thing is. It just doesn't die, especially with Terra Water. It's gonna be very annoying. Um, yeah, I mean he has Hazard Removal, Hazard Setter, Hazard Denier with Brambleghast, or sorry, Spin Denier with Brambleghast. This is a pretty good team, I'm not gonna lie. Um, I think I don't have much to say just because this thing's not really weak to anything. I don't see any weaknesses to this team. I think it's also very good. Um, I, I think it goes there. Next up is Twigs. Let's go ahead and bring up the Twigs. Okay, the first thing I noticed was one single Terra Captain. And that's because this is the definition of top heavy. You got, actually, it's not very top heavy. This is more like the definition of mid heavy. I don't know, I'm yapping. Um, I think this is a good team. Don't get me wrong. It's just very limiting with Mesprit as your only Terra Captain. I don't hate Mesprit, but I don't know. I feel like you lose a lot of that surprise factor without having many Terra Captains. But I will say, um, no grounded poison in sight. Uh, so good luck with that. I mean, you have Defog Talonflame and Spin Serena, which you're probably gonna be running Boost and Serena too, and Talonflame. So I mean, no matter. But you have an Iron Bundle, so I would watch out for those rocks. Otherwise, I mean, Garchomp just sets up uh, hazards like it's no one's business. Gambit and Zoroark. This pairing is wow. I mean, it's absurd. It's very good. Um, you can just switch in on a fighting type, and if you lose that 50-50, I mean, you're done. Zoroark smokes your pack. Um, Speed tier wise, this is a very fast team. I like that. Half half the team, over half the team is over 100 speed. Love to see that. 104 base attack. Wow. Um, this team just hits hard. It just hits very hard. It doesn't stop the motion. Um, Defensive staples include Florges with special defense, and I mean you can always run defensive Garchomp, Mesprit, even like something like King Gambit with 120 defense. So this potential for the heavy hitters to turn into defensive Pokemon, especially with Talonflame having Flame Body. It's just annoying, really. But I will say, weak to T-Spike, only one Terra Captain. Other than that, I mean, it's a pretty good team. I like Garchomp. I love the Kingambit Zoroark combination. I think I think I'll put you right here. Let's go to Fal's team again. I'm gonna make an executive decision and do that. And I'll do this. Good. Okay. Alright. Next up we have Sam. I'm sorry if I'm calling you Sam and you don't want to be called Sam. I'm not even going to try and say that out loud. Um, okay. Let's take a look at this team. Palafin, already broken. Yeah, Palafin in draft is obviously good, but it's not insane. Uh, I will say, Glimora in Cinderace is kind of funny. Cinderace, obviously, if you want to use Court Change, you're more than likely going to be putting your own hazards back on your side. With Tinkaton and Glimora, with Setting Rock and T-Spike. But I like your Fire Water Grass Core, Palafin Cinderace, with Arboliva as your Terra Captain. I like the Terra Arboliva. I also like the Terra Articuno, always a good Terra Pokemon. The Articuno, Fighting and Steel, yeah, is what I would have chosen. Terra's Sneasler, I think it's a underrated Terra Captain. Sneasler's just so fast, and it's pretty offensive too. 95 attack is nothing to scoff at. Um, with 115 speed, I like the speed tiers, and yeah, from 80 to 119, you covered pretty much everything. I do like that. Um, it says your defense is lacking a bit, but uh, Iron Hands is pretty bulky. But they're kind of right. Your defense is not amazing. Um, you're also pretty weak to fighting. I believe Terra's, you're fine. Mamoswine does not. Gardecuno will most likely Terra, and if it's Steel, you're duped. Miss Magius, I mean, it's probably gonna be your go-to on a fighting type. But I like this team a lot. I think it's very balanced. I like the type distribution. No Terra Appleton will always get abused by ice types, but you're not weak to the ice type at all. As I was saying, Appleton, though weak to ice, but it does have thick fat, so it's not incredibly bad. Um, but you have a lot of key resistant mons, like especially the fire, water, grass, electric core. You have a lot of resistances there from Appleton and Arboliva, but I feel like you're not really bringing Appleton with the quality of the rest of your team. Um, So yeah, I think this is a very middle of the pack team. I don't see something that's extremely broken, but I also don't see a lot of lack in anything. I think it's a pretty good team, and I think I'll put you. Where will I put you? I think I'll put you right there. Okay, fet set. Ready, set, go. Did I? Yes. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and paste values. Oh, this has to be cornerstone. Right. Sorry, I had to check I was recording. Anyways, let's take a look at this team. Fet. First things first. Chiyu. Well, eh, I thought I went middle. I thought I went middle. Middle draft, but FetCet is a real middle of the pack. Chiyu with his only 18 pointer, and then the rest is 14 and below. Um, but I do. I'm not gonna say I like his team because you have Blissey and Amoonguss, but I can't really talk. I have Umbreon and Momola, but I think Blissey and Amoonguss are more annoying. Um, so I am a hater. But Ogerpon Rock Chiyu Swampert and is probably the best fire, water, grass core I've seen uh, so far. Uh, yeah, absolutely. This is a monster. Uh, yeah, I mean you have rocks, you have spike, you have just Chiyu to blow stuff up. Blissey and Amoonguss to tank hits. Noivern and Kilowattrel. I don't know. That I do have a little bit of an issue with. I'm not sure you need both. I mean, I know Noivern has defog, so that's your main way of getting um, hazards off. I guess you have Hitmontop. No, that's not true. You have Hitmontop. Terra Hitmontop is interesting. I haven't really seen too many people use Terra Hitmontop, but I think you can put in some work with it. Terra Fighting and Steel, obviously, for the Technician bullet punches. But um, Terra Fairy with Intimidate is definitely good. I like the Crown and Mimikyu. I think they're good, reliable win cons, especially if you get Chip with the Ogerpon, Swampert, the Chiyu. Uh, yeah, I don't like Amoonguss or Blissey, but they are good defensive staples. I will say that. I can't hate on that. Um, Pretty weak to ice. This isn't Terra. This isn't Terra. This isn't Terra. The only thing that can Terra is a Kilowattrel out of the ice weakness. Um, but you do have 3 resist. Well, 2. I'm not counting Frogadier. You have Crown and Chiyu has some pretty decent SpDef. 120 SpDef, yeah. So it's not taking a lot from fire. I'll say that. Your defense. Yeah, your defense is a little low, but Hitmontop exists. But I think the problem with Hitmontop is that you have to choose between Technician or Intimidate, and usually you want to use Technician. I think in this case you're gonna be forced to use Intimidate a lot, um, just because your defense on a lot of these mons is not great. Iron Crown is your biggest defense is with 100, and your physical attackers are a little lackluster. Ogerpon Cornerstone is strong, definitely your strongest physical attacker. Swampert usually want to run defensive, but I mean, 110 attack is not terrible. And Hitmontop with Technician, I think those are going to be which is not bad, um, but yeah. Speed tier wise, I think you have pretty good speed tiers. There's a sudden gap between 70 and 96, but I don't think that would be too much of an issue. You have pretty good speed up top with 125, 123, 110. You have good Scarfers, Iron Crown, Chiyu. Uh, I'm not even gonna talk about Frogadier. Uh, Not really weak to rock. To rocks, sorry. You have Blissey and Swampert as your stealth rockers. You have Spike, T-Spec, and you have pretty good removal. You have MQ, so Spin Denier is good. I think, like, I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but I am sleeping on this team. Um, and I'm sure you'll show why I'm wrong, but I am sleeping a little bit on this team. I don't know. I don't see the threat. Though I like a lot of your choices. Again, I am really liking Cheese, Swampert, Ogerpon as your Fire, Water, Grass core. But everything else, just I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I think Noivern and Kilowattrel is a little bit of overkill. I don't think you need both. But I can see why you want Defog on the Noivern. Um, or just a Dragon type in general. Um, but yeah, I think I'll put this team. I think I'll put this. I think I'll put this team right there. And I'm sorry, I feel like this is. I feel like this is where it belongs compared to the other teams. But as a trainer, um, if this was based off of skill, you'd probably go over here. Um, all love to TheFetCet. They're an incredible battler. And I know they're going to put in work with this team regardless of where I place them. Um, but, strictly talking about the team and how I like it, I don't think it's up to par with the rest. But, yeah, I'm sure you're going to prove me wrong, and I hope you do. Um, and last and least, no, I'm kidding. Um, we're over that era of hatred. Last but not least, we have JimSmoke with the classic snow team. Um, all right, let's take a look at this. The defensive backbone of Mandibuzz, Incineroar, and Klefki, and and Fortress, and Slowking, and Quag. Wow, okay. This is a very, very defensive team. Um, Especially with a Terra on the Fortress, this team is going to be annoying. Um, and I don't think you need a lot of offense on this team either. Ogerpon and Bax are the main ones that come to mind. Bax with 145 attack, Ogerpon with 120. Um, but no real type weaknesses. You're weak to rocks. You're very weak to rocks. Um, but you have a spinner in Fortress. I think that's your only. Oh, you have defog on Mandibuzz. I think Mandibuzz got defog. Mandibuzz, you should get defog. Yeah, you do. Mandibuzz does get defog. So you have ways of getting rid of rocks. It's just with your pivot playstyle of Slowking, Chili, Fortress, Volt Switch, Regieleki, Volt Switch. I think hazards are going to be a real pain for you to deal with. Well, mainly just rocks. Just because your removal options are quite limited. But I think without hazards, your team just sits on everything. I mean, Prankster, Klefki, uh, Roost, Manabuzz, Intim, Incineroar, Fortress, just its Terra, um, Glowking, just sitting on special attackers, Quagsire with Unaware. It's a very defensive team, very annoying team. This is not usually a team like the team I would like pilot, just because I'm not a huge fan of stall. But no, I think this team can put in some work. Speed tiers, I will say it's a little bit slower than I'm used to. But this is a defensive team, so I'm not gonna rate. I'm not gonna berate on that just because this is a very defensive team. It doesn't make sense to have a lot of speed. Um, but I think Bax can put in some work. Terra Rotom, I'm excited to see what Rotom can do, and so uh, also Terra Cramorant. I think this team is very, very disruptive, and it has a lot of hazards. It has a lot of hazards, um, and two spinners, a defogger. I don't think the rest do anything. Very momentum based too. Parting shot, U-turn, full switch. Um, there's a lot this team can do defensively that will disrupt other teams. And if you let backs get out of hand, you're done. You know what I mean? You just lose. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to see this team work. Uh, see where would I place this? It's a very annoying team. This is a very different play style than all the other teams. So I don't know where I would slot it in. I think um I think I'll put you right there. Um I don't know. I think I'll put you there actually. Uh oh, that is not what I meant to do. Okay. And I'll slot myself in. I am humble. I'll be humble. Um so I know I'm biased, so I'll try not to rank myself too unfairly. So I'll just go ahead and slot myself there. Um and yeah, I think that's everyone. I'm excited for this season to start, and uh, yeah, I'm excited for the matchups. I think this is the strongest Entei draft I've seen. Oh, this like just in terms of teams drafted. Everyone has a great team. I can't find major weaknesses in most of these. That's why even I had to name them B minus. Um, just because I don't think there's bad teams. Um, there's teams I've not seen before or not used to their playstyles, which is maybe why they're a bit lower. But I have faith in every coach in this division right now, and I'm sure they know how to pilot their team, and I'm sure they know what they're doing. Not I'm sure I know they know what they're doing. So yeah, I'm just excited for the matchups, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll add timestamps just because this is probably like over an hour long, and I know you don't want to hear me yap for over an hour. So, alright, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you during the watch togethers. Bye bye.